You can stand on the National Mall and think you've got Washington figured out. The Capitol Dome rises like a beacon at one end. The Washington Monument juts up from the center like a marble exclamation point. And way out in the distance, almost glowing when the sun hits it just right, the Lincoln Memorial. It's all right there. But what you can't see, standing in that moment, is the scale of it all, the enormity. You can't see how a city designed to impress and intimidate will absolutely eat you alive if you walk in thinking you can conquer it in a day. And yet, people try. Every single day. Families unload from buses, students spill out of tour groups, couples roll their carry-ons off the Amtrak train at Union Station. Everyone comes in with that thought. We'll just do them all. We'll see the big ones. We'll do Washington. But here's the truth. If you've only got 24 hours in the capital of the United States, you have to make choices, ruthless choices. And those choices will decide whether you end your day exhilarated or limping back to your hotel, overwhelmed and wondering what you actually saw. So let's answer the impossible question. How do you actually do Washington, D.C. in one day? Washington looks deceptively compact on a map. You see the neat little rectangle of the mall and think, how bad can it be? 2 miles, end to end, easy. Except it isn't, because nothing in Washington is scaled for comfort. Everything is scaled for grandeur. Pierre Lafont, the French-born planner who laid out the city in 1791, designed the capital to rival Paris, to rival Rome, to make a republic look like an empire. Monuments were meant to overwhelm, to put the citizen in awe. And they do. But that awe comes at a price. The mall alone, from the Capitol steps to the Lincoln Memorial, is longer than most people expect. Try walking it in summer heat. Try doing it while shepherding kids. Add in the museum's 17 Smithsonian institutions, more than 70 museums citywide, and suddenly that neat little rectangle has swallowed your day whole. I've watched visitors burn out before lunch. They stumble past the treasures of human history. Dorothy's ruby slippers, the Wright brothers plane, the Star-Spangled Banner itself, without actually seeing them, because they're racing a clock that can't be beaten. And that's the heart of the dilemma. Washington was built to inspire you, but it was also built to slow you down. So if you have one day, you have to flip the script. You have to decide in advance what matters most and let the rest go. If you only have one morning in D.C., start where the story of America actually gets written, the Capitol. Even if you don't set foot inside, the building is the anchor. Its white dome is visible from almost everywhere in the city, and it centers the whole mall. Just standing on those steps, looking out, you understand why every presidential inauguration starts here. But here's the insider trick. Across the street from the Capitol, the Library of Congress. If you walk in expecting dusty shelves, you're wrong. What you'll find instead is one of the most breathtaking interiors in America. The Great Hall soars with marble staircases, mosaics, murals. The reading room, famous for its circular design, looks like it belongs in a cathedral. And inside, treasures. Thomas Jefferson's personal library, a Gutenberg Bible, a draft of the Declaration of Independence in Jefferson's own hand. Most tourists never make it inside, which is a mistake, because if you want to understand democracy, it's not just about laws. It's about words, ideas. The library is where those ideas live. Next door is the Supreme Court, a more sober building opened in 1935 with those marble steps where cameras gather whenever a decision drops. You don't need to linger, But even a glance reminds you that democracy doesn't just get written, it gets argued. Now, if you have time for one museum before lunch, make it the National Air and Space Museum. It's the most visited for a reason, and here's how you do it in under an hour. Head straight for the Wright brothers flyer, then Apollo 11's command module. That's the leap from the first flight to the moon, covered in 2 artifacts. Anything else is bonus. By noon, you've anchored yourself in democracy and discovery. That's enough. This is where most visitors go wrong. They treat the Smithsonian's like a buffet, pile it all on one plate. You can't do it, so you choose. If art speaks to you, the National Gallery of Art is staggering. One building filled with the classics, Da Vinci, Michelangelo, another building for modern, Pollock, Warhol. You pick a wing, not the whole thing, because trying to see it all is like trying to drink the ocean. If you want iconic Americana, head instead to the National Museum of American History. The actual flag that flew over Fort McHenry in 1814, the one that inspired the national anthem. The First Lady's gowns, Julia Child's kitchen, those ruby red slippers. These aren't just artifacts, they're cultural lightning bolts. You walk in, and you know. Or, if you can secure a timed ticket, the National Museum of African American History and Culture, one of the most powerful museums in the city. It takes you from the transatlantic slave trade all the way through civil rights, through music, through culture today. If you want the story of America told in full, this is where it lives. But here's the key. You pick no more than 2 museums in the midday stretch. Because museums aren't just rooms, they're marathons, and you'll never finish the day if you overload. Restraint is the strategy. The less you do, the more you actually see. By mid-afternoon, you leave the mall. You have to. Otherwise, Washington becomes marble and glass and nothing else. So here's where you go. Georgetown. Old cobblestone streets, the C&O Canal cutting through. Cafes, bookstores, and a waterfront that feels almost European. You get lunch here, you sit for a minute, you breathe. Or head down to the wharf. This is Washington reinvented. A waterfront district filled with music venues, seafood stalls, fire pits along the water. Locals actually hang out here, which is rare for a city that often feels built for government workers and tourists. Another option, Union Market. Food stalls, murals, and a modern pulse that shows you Washington isn't all history. It's alive. Then you save the best for last, because Washington, D.C. at night is a different city. The crowds thin out, the monuments light up, the Lincoln Memorial glowing like a temple in the dark. The Jefferson Memorial, its white dome mirrored in the tidal basin at sunset. The Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial, his stone figure lit from below, as if rising from the rock itself. At night, the mall belongs to you. You walk the same stretch you struggled through in the morning, but now it's quiet. You hear your own footsteps. The city exhales, and suddenly you're not racing anymore, you're just seeing. That's the moment you'll remember, more than any artifact behind glass, more than any gallery. Washington at night is the memory that sticks. Here's what a lot of people get wrong about Washington. They think they can conquer it. One marathon day, check every box, do every museum. You just can't do it. Not in a day, not in a week. Washington isn't built for that. But if you shift your perspective, if you choose deliberately, if you resist the urge to do it all, suddenly one day is enough. Enough to stand where democracy is written. Enough to see art and culture that define a country. Enough to taste the life of the city beyond the mall. Enough to see the monuments glowing in silence at night. One day will never let you conquer Washington, but it will let you understand it. And that is the point. And that's our story today. How to actually do Washington, D.C. in a single day without losing your mind or your feet. For more episodes, you can find the podcast on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts. It's a convenient way to follow along. Whether you're traveling or just planning, wherever you go, take the story with you. Thank you so much for gallivanting with me. Be good to yourself.